in general, if we're trying to get a good stretch on the hamstrings, I want you to avoid flexion or posterior tilting at the pelvis. So what a good example of this is that if I try to keep my spine neutral and bend over, I start to get stretching the hamstrings at this point right here. So anything I get from this point on is all happening at the low back. And oftentimes tight hamstrings will aggravate the low back, so we don't want to work flexion with this hamstring stretch. So real simply, if you want to stretch your hamstrings, you can use a dowel rod like this to monitor to see if you start to flex. And if you start to flex, that dowel rod will come off your head or come off your sacrum. But stepping up like this should be plenty of range of motion to get a hamstring stretch. And now, instead of leaning my torso over this and start to flex like this, all I gotta do is drive my butt back, kind of sink down a little bit, and now I can get a good stretch. And I can go external rotation or internal rotation to hit different parts of that hamstring. If I need to get a little higher up, closer to the butt to get a hamstring stretch, lift the leg up, bend the knee a little more, and then as I forward fold, keeping a good neutral spine, I can get a really high hamstring stretch. Lower in the hamstring will be a little straighter, just like that, and that'll get kind of more down in the lower hamstring, or even kind of behind the calf. But preferably, we can do that with either in a standing position, or I can get down here in a kneeling position and do that same thing. But let's try to keep that back a little straighter when we're trying to stretch those hamstrings.